Shalom. Before I get started with this lesson, I want to give all honor, praise, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahushai, Bahashem, Rachahakwadash. Double honors to my apostles and elders of Great Millstone that taught me this truth and that rule well. And peace and salutation to the elect that's out here laboring in all truth and sincerity. To you, I say Shalom. This is the brother Amwan Ariyah from the GMS Charlotte camp, coming back with another Lord willing, edifying lesson to feed the elect of the nation of Israel. And in this lesson, I wanted to go into the topic of King James because before, we started camp last week, we had this Jake come up and was inquiring on what exactly we was, out there doing. And we was explaining to him how, we're the Hebrew Israelites, coming out here to wake up our people unto who they are as being the true people of the scriptures, all right? And to repent and come back unto their true power, which is, Yahweh, which is the true name of who you ignorantly call God, and through his son, Yahweh Shah, who you ignorantly call Jesus Christ, all right? And as we was conversing with the Jake, he was hitting us with the same, tired rhetoric of, King James, wasn't he a white man? Was King James, was he not gay? He didn't say the gay part, but that comes up, when you talk about King James, because it's either one or the other or both, all right? Either King James was a white man, okay, or King James was a homosexual. But either way, these two things are thrown out there to pretty much, dissuade our people from, taking the Bible in its validity, man. All right, so the Spirit hopped on me to, go into my phone, a few articles and excerpts from different books that I have to, dispel these rumors and bring the truth out of the matter, because, what Esau Edom isn't going to tell you, okay, is that, when they came into power during the Renaissance era, all right, they went out and was whitewashing, all the images of, all things that, Jake has done in history, all right, the people, who we were, and all that, all right. And this was, prophecy that these devils were going to do this, okay? So I want to grab this real quick. This is the book of Job, chapter 9, verse 24. And it reads, "The earth is given into the hand of the wicked. He covereth the faces of the judges thereof, if not where and who is he," right? So the earth was given into the hand of the wicked. And if you don't know who the wicked is, all right, look who is controlling the earth, all right? Look who owns all the money, all right, who makes all the laws, all right, who runs the land, all right? That alone should let you know. But, the scriptures give further context, clues to who this points at, all right? And it reads, "He covereth the faces of the judges thereof, if not where and who is he." And who are the original judges, of the earth, all right? The Israelites, man, okay? All right, you so-called blacks, Latino, Native Americans, you are the original judges that the scriptures is speaking about, man. All right, and so throughout our history, we have had many, of our people, changed to fit the narrative of the Edomites, man. When you look at all the biblical figures, King David, King Solomon, all right, Job, even our Lord Yahweh Shai was being the main judge. All these men, all right, were changed into so-called white people, Edomites, for the purpose of psychological warfare. Because what these devils wanted to do, because they know we have that saying, in the world, a picture is worth 1,000 words. All right, so through imagery, okay, it can help a lot when it comes to uncovering, the different lies and different things that Esau Edom, has, put out there to keep our people from coming back unto the truth. All right. So one of the main things that was put out there, the misconceptions when it comes to the scriptures, is that King James was a so-called black man. Okay. Because history itself will tell you that, but you have to do, some serious digging to be able to uncover this, because what this devil has done is hide this information and make it extremely hard to find this. But if you have the Spirit of the Lord that is with you, all right, then these things will be revealed unto you, man. All right. I just thought it was a precept. Let me see if I can find that, man. All right. Let me see. All right. This is Proverbs chapter 25, verse 2. Let me get the King James version. It says, "It is the glory of Yahweh by Hashem Yahushua to conceal a thing, but the honor of kings is to search out a matter." And that is what the Lord is putting us back in the stead of. Because when you read, all right, the scriptures tell us that the nation of Israel is a nation of kings, priests, and judges. Okay, so as we are, coming back into kingship, okay, all right, it is our duty to search out, all manners of things, man. All right, to be truly called a scholar, we must have, the wherewithal to be able to look up, history, different languages, because when you go into King Solomon was well versed to where he looked up everything, man. All right, let me get that. Matter of fact, just letting the spirit flow. Okay. This is another one that's not exactly what I want. All right, this is Ecclesiastes 1 and 13. It says, "And I gave my heart to seek and search out wisdom concerning all things that are done under heaven. This sore travail hath Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushua given to the sons of man to be exercised wherewith." Right. Therewith. Right. So we have, to come into the same mindset that King Solomon had, man, because he was searching out all wisdom. So, hey, we have done the same thing when it comes to uncovering all the lies and misconceptions that these devils have done since coming back into power. Because when we come back into, what this devil did when he came into power, okay, when he was let loose, all right, this man went out and pretty much deceived the whole world. All right, this is Revelation chapter 20 and verse 7. It says, "And when the 1,000 years are expired, Satan shall be loosed out of his prison." Now, when you go into going up, Revelation chapter 20 and 1, "And I saw an angel come down from heaven," the angel being Yahushua, "having the key of the bottomless pit being Europe, and a great chain in his hand. And he laid hold on the dragon, that old serpent, which is the devil and Satan, and bound him 1,000 years." That old serpent being, the serpent going back to the garden, not an actual animal, but a man. All right, Genesis chapter 3, verse 1. "Now the serpent was more subtle than any beast of the field, which the Lord Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushua had made. And he said unto the woman, Yea, hath Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushua said, Ye shall not eat of every tree in the field." Now, as we always go into, when you go into this word serpent, it wasn't an actual snake. All right, it was a man. Okay, the Hebrew word nachash. It says a serpent. And I'll go into the Salaki, the root word. It says to practice divination, divine, to observe signs, learn by experience, diligently observe, practice fortune telling, take as an omen. All right, so pretty much a witch. All right, a warlock. It says a divine enchanter. Okay, so like I said, he was a witch. All right, so this nation, okay, was an actual a nation of warlocks. That's what you see amongst the Edomites today. Okay, they practiced heavy witchcraft, and part of that witchcraft they were able to put on the whole world was deception. Okay, through his media, all right, through his history. Okay, so going back, Revelation chapter 20 and 1, "And I saw an angel come down from heaven, having the key of the bottomless pit, and a great chain in his hand, and he laid hold on the serpent." It's like on the dragon, that old serpent. So we just explained what that serpent was, dealing with the Edomites, all right, or who will later be known as the Edomites. Okay, the sons of the wicked. which is the devil and Satan, and bound him 1,000 years. Because when you go back into that time, all right, it was three classifications of men. All right, you had the sons of God, which were eventually become to known as the children of Israel. Okay, you had the sons of men, which are the other 16 nations. All right, and then you had the sons of the wicked, which are the Edomites. All right, so that old serpent goes back to the line of the sons of the wicked, which are these Edomites that we see today. Okay, it says which is the devil and Satan, and bound him 1,000 years. Now this 1,000 years, all right, going into the time to where Esau Edom began to fall out of power. All right, after the pagan Roman Empire began to be usurped by Jakes, dealing with the Holy Roman Empire. Started with Nerva, and then all the different Jake rulers that came after. All right, verse 3, and cast him into the bottomless pit, and shut him up, and set a seal upon him, that he should deceive the nations no more, till the 1,000 years should be fulfilled, and after that he must be loosed a little season. Right, and so this time period Esau doesn't talk about, because this is the time period where he was pretty much in that caveman like state. Because when you go into this time period, this is dealing with what they call the Dark Ages, or the Byzantine Empire. Which, when you go into the Byzantine Empire, it goes into that word Byzantine means backward. All right, and they call it that because this is a time where so-called blacks were ruling. All right, blacks were ruling in different parts of the world. Egypt. I'm not Egypt. Slip of the tongue. Great Britain. All right, France, Germany, Russia, Ireland, Spain. All right, hey, it was look up this book, Nature Knows No Color Lines, and it'll go into all that, man. All right, we had major rulerships all over these what you see now, mainly quote unquote European countries, but there were Jakes that was ruling those before they became all Edomite, what we see today. All right, so Esau was bound that little season. All right, until prophecy had to come to pass. And when we skip down back to verse 7, it says, and when the 1,000 years are expired, Satan shall be loosed out of his prison. All right, and those 1,000 years was coming out of the end of the Holy Roman Empire, going into the Renaissance era. All right, to where Esau Edom began to come back into power. All right, and that word Renaissance means rebirth, to where, like I said, that was the beginning of the Edomites coming back into power, and they were going throughout the whole world. All right, establishing themselves again, man. Okay, it says, and shall go out to deceive the nations which are in the four quarters of the earth, Gog and Magog, to gather them together to battle, the number of whom is as the sand of the sea. But the point being, the main beginning, and shall go out to deceive the nations which are in the four quarters of the earth. All right, because when Esau began to spread his influence throughout the rest of the world, doing his different conquests. All right, things like the Age of Enlightenment and so on. All right, hey, their influence pretty much made it to where they were setting themselves up to be looked at as God later on down the road, which, as we see today, they have successfully done that, man. Okay, which is why now the spirit is coming out to where all these things are being cast down, and the truth of the matter is coming out. All right, let's get that. Okay, Salakia, wrong verse. Okay, this is 2 Corinthians chapter 10, starting at verse 3. It says, for though we walk in the flesh, we do not war after the flesh. Okay, because the way that we fight against this Edomite power structure today is not physically. We're warring against this spiritually, because hey, this war on truth, as you're seeing taking place, okay, it is greatly more impactful than actually taking up arms and going to fight these devils physically. Because hey, through the lies and deception, this man was able to deceive the whole world to where now, like the scriptures say, Satan has disguised himself as an angel of light. So now these Edomites, through all these various means that they did, were able to put themselves up as being the innocent of the earth, man. All right, and nobody was able to look on these devils for any wrongdoing, even though they have a serious history of straight up bloodshed, man. Okay, so what we have done is, go into the truth of the matter using the scriptures and prophecy and history, as well as artifacts and things like that, to pretty much expose these things, man. Which is why these devils are in such a, a, a scare, because all their lies are being dismantled. All right, verse 4: For the weapons of our warfare are not carnal, but mighty through Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushua to the pulling down of strongholds. And that's what has happened. Okay, we're pulling down all the lies, all the deception that he is able to spread throughout the whole earth, man. Casting down imagination and every high thing that exalted itself against the knowledge of Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushua, and bringing into captivity every thought to the obedience of Hamashiach. All right. So all this being said, okay, the truth of the matter is being brought out by the prophets, the true men of the Lord, man, the true teachers of these scriptures, man. Because you Christians and you Catholics and you different people that have tried to take this book and make it your own, you have done a terrible job of going into the scriptures and bringing the truth of the matter out, man. Which is why the Lord has set up the apostles last. All right, he set up the true teachers, pastors after his own heart, to give the true believers the truth. Okay, where it says truth shall let me get that real quick. So rain down. It's in second Esdras. Yep, second Esdras chapter 6, verse 28. It says, I started 27. It says, for evil shall be put out, and deceit shall be quenched. As for faith, it shall flourish. Corruption shall be overcome, and the truth, which has been so long without fruit, shall be declared. And this is what has happened. Okay, hey, the truth, all right, is being made manifest, and is boosting, all right, the true believer's faith, because everything that is coming out is a testament to the spirit of Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushua are filling this earth again, man. Okay, because this devil was able to take the truth out the earth and fill it with his lies, all right, to make it to where nobody really had any validity to any opposition against what he was saying. All right, but now all these things are being presented, and we're able to use these things to dismantle all the lies that he has done, man. All right. So speaking of that deceit being quenched, one of the things that I'm gonna tackle first is this notion that King James was a so-called white man. All right. Now this has been done because, like I said, Job 9:24. All right. He changes the faces of the judges thereof. So he was able to whitewash everything, which whitewashing is actually in the scriptures. Okay. First Maccabees chapter 3 verse 48. It says, and laid open the book of the law, wherein the heathen had sought to paint the likeness of their images. Right. So Esau Edom was able to go into all the history, all right, all the different quote unquote black icons, and whitewash them, man. All right, this is what you call iconoclasm. This is scriptural. Okay, so this is why you see every time they speak on biblical figures, they always make them so-called white men. All right, King James being a biblical figure as well, man, because when you go into the origin of King James, like you see here on the right, okay, King James the 6th and 1. All right, it says King James was a king of Great Britain, France, and Ireland. He was a black man, and the King James Bible is named after him. All right, so this right here alone, okay, people will dispute this up and down that King James could not have been a so-called black man. All right, so let's go into the article. All right, so this is from the patriot.co.zw. Okay, it says King James was black, part 1. All right, It says King James the First of England, and originally King James the Sixth of Scotland, because he ruled multiple countries at once, was the son of a black father and a colored mother, both of royal blood. Without the necessary background, this may sound like a far-fetched story motivated by a crazy desire to identify black heroes in world history. And this is what Esau has done every time you try to, bring out the truth of the matter, because different figures of history, all right, have been, found out to be, so-called black, all right, but Esau will immediately dismiss that because he brings the notion of we there's no way we could be any of these notable people in history because we're nothing more than slaves, man. All right, but when you have the spirit of the Lord to help you sift through the history, all right, these things are found to be false, man. It says we should not forget, however, that after the Moors settled in Spain and southern Europe in 711 CE, significant number of black people found their way to northern European countries such as Scotland, Ireland, France, and Denmark. The nations of Scotland and Ireland were, since the beginning of the first millennium, had significant number of blacks who in Scotland wielded political power as the kings and rulers. It is also from the preponderance Slovakia, of black people. I said, look up this word so I know what it means. All right, so the quality or fact of being greater in number. All right, because they'll try to make it seem like so-called blacks was never in, these countries, England, Scotland, Ireland, France, Denmark. Because today you look at it, they're mainly Edomite populated places. But hey, Jake was, once, high rankings of members of society in these different places. Okay, it says it is also from the preponderance of black people in Ireland at medieval period that the term Black Irish has continued to be used to this day. After the downfall of the Moors in Granada, Spain, the white countries of Europe took a special interest in Scotland because there was a thriving black population there. Unlike the Moors in southern Europe, who were Muslims, the Scottish blacks were Christians and therefore could not be victimized on grounds of religion. They also wielded significant military power to neutralize black influence in Scotland, and neighboring white nations adopted the strategy of whitewashing the line of the kings of England. See, and this is where that began to pretty much have the notion that black people did not rule in these different lands, man. All right. Now, continuing on, they entered into treaties with Scottish kings that would ensure intermarriages between white princesses of the northern countries and the black kings of Scotland and their heirs. These were arranged marriages that would be overlooked by the Catholic Church. King James the Fourth of Scotland was made to marry Margaret, the daughter of King Henry of the Seventh of England. England was still under the Roman Catholic Church, and it was King Henry the Eighth of England who would later break away from the Catholic Church to form the Anglican Church. It was from James the Fourth arranged marriage with Margaret that the Scottish kings began having a legitimate shot at kingship in England. James was the fifth most born. James the Fifth was born to Margaret, and will also be made to marry two white French women, and his second wife was Mary, the daughter of the Duke of Guise. This Mary gave birth to a daughter she named Mary, and would inherit the Scottish kingdom after the death of her father James the Fifth. She was also known as Mary, the Queen of Scotland. Mary was a Catholic, and the Queen of England hated her for this, and was also the fact that Mary had a legitimate claim to the English throne through her ancestors Henry the Seventh and grandmother Margaret. It was arranged that Mary, Queen of Scots, to be married to Edward, the son of the British King Henry the Eighth. In response, Mary's mother, the daughter of the Duke of Guise, the Catholic, condemned the arrangement, and the Queen of the Scots had to decline the marriage. From then on, Italy, France, and England began battling of influence for the Scottish kingdom. Mary's mother was a daughter of a French duke, had been very influential during Queen Mary's reign, but when she eventually died, the Queen of Scotland became isolated and vulnerable. Let me see if I can jump down. All right, it's a little bit more. In 1565, Queen Mary was married by her cousin, black Scottish man of the royal family who was called Darnley. Darnley was killed in 1567 by the white rivals of the Queen, but he had left Queen Mary a male heir to her own lineage. Queen Mary's son was born a few months before her father's murder, and he was named James VI. Now, going through these genealogies, okay, the father, it never changed from being a so-called black man, all right? Because going, as you trace it all the way back, all right, I'm going to go back up. Like I said, that King James was the son of a black man, right? So where you're able to get lost in all this is when you start naming all these different lands. And so Esau Edom, all right, through his deception, will have you think, well, just because somebody is from England, Scotland, Ireland, France, and these are heavily Edomite populated areas now, you won't think of the black influence that was once in that land before they became heavily populated by, Edomites, man, But the point being that his ancestor, King James the Sixth ancestor, comes from a black man. All right. Now we understand through the scriptures that the lineage is passed down from the man. All right. So it doesn't matter that he had white mothers, Edomite mothers. Okay, because the seed comes from the man. Numbers 1:18. And they assembled all the congregation together on the first day of the second month, and they declared their pedigrees after their families by the house of their fathers, according to the number of the names, from 20 years old and upward by their posts. So the house of their fathers, the sperm of the father determines the nationality of a man. So King James, all right, he had, Israelite lineage because his dad was a so-called black man. All right. So more likely, he was either, a Judite, more than likely, man. All right, he could have been, Benjamin and Levi, but the fact being, he was a so-called black man. All right. So let's get a couple more sentences out of here. All right. It says Queen Mary's son was born a few months before her father's murder, and he was named James VI. James VI was therefore the son of a black man and a colored woman. The black man's gene is dominant to the white man's gene because the latter is recessive, which is bullshit because, at the end of the day, you are what your father is. Your skin color does not matter. It's what your father is.